Are you looking for more out of your life? Do you need ideas on how to start new businesses and how to move forward in your own personal life? Well, guess what? You have come to the right radio show. At You Can Overcome Anything podcast show, you will learn and hear from many people from all walks of life who are sharing their challenges, their stories, the habits, and the mind shifts they had to overcome to become who they are today. On top, you will get a chance to connect and see how you can overcome anything by networking and learning about your next move through this radio show. I present to you our great speakers at You Can Overcome Anything podcast show with your host, Cesar Espino. Hello there, and welcome back to another episode of You Can Overcome Anything podcast show. It is your host, Cesar Espino. And today I have a special guest. Her name is Sandra Lena Silverman, better known as Sandy. She's the best-selling author of From Bullshit to Botox and a host of Parties Over, a podcast and talk show where she keeps it real about beauty, wellness, and reinvention. She's walked the runways of New York Fashion Week and Paris Fashion Week, has been featured in many publications, and just finished her second book, Providing Life After 50 is Anything But Boring. How are you, Sandy?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm
Thank you
doing
for inviting me.
wonderful. Yeah, definitely. So let's talk about, well, first and foremost, tell me a bit about your upbringing, your background. Where are you originally from?
So I live in Miami, and a few years ago, I wrote my book, From Bullshit to Botox, and then it just kind of took off from there. At that time, I had like 800 followers on Instagram and
Yeah.
started just posting videos and things I talked about in my book, and then everything kind of just took off from there. And then I worked on my second book and started Parties Over. So it's been quite a journey. It's been
Yeah,
fun.
I love that. What was the inspiration of doing that first book? Where did that come from?
So the first book, I had done a lot of procedures, like a lot of external work for
Mhm.
years. And then I realized I'm not really happy. So I started doing the internal work, which it should have been like the opposite, but it
Right.
wasn't. But because I had done so many procedures, so many surgeries, so many beauty treatments, people would ask me all the time. And I thought, why don't I just write a book so it's kind of all in there and I'll have
Yeah.
experts in the book, and then it just makes it easier for, people to understand what the expectations are, or, what the results would be like. And so I just kind of took off from there. I found a co-writer. Her name is Erica Florentine,
Mhm.
and she was amazing. And we got the book done literally in like 6 months from start to
Nice.
finish.
Yeah. That's awesome. So let's talk about this idea, and I have here in my notes, right? In terms of do not let your past define your future, right? Tell me a little bit about that. What experience have you had that you have a strong belief of that?
So I was in a really bad marriage.
Hmm.
My ex and I are now, we've been apart for a year and a half, and it was so toxic and just so upsetting. That's what my second book is about. It's about the marriage, it's about narcissism, it's about all my experiences. And if I sat there and let all of that define my future, I would literally have crawled under a rock. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was like, okay, we're not together now. He left for the fourth time last July of 2024. And I just decided I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to crawl under a rock. I'm going to live my life. And honestly, my life took off after the relationship ended in such a way I never even imagined.
Yeah. So, what's the and I think a lot of people might be going through that, and I think that's
Mhm.
actually a really good point that you just brought up, right? And obviously you decided to again not define or let that bring you down, right?
Yeah.
Except you said something, you're like this for the fourth time, right? So obviously the first time you didn't learn, the second time you didn't learn, the third time you
No.
didn't learn. Talk about a little bit about that because there's a lot of different things going on, a lot of emotions, a lot of maybe the connection. There's so many different things, right? That obviously I do believe people then because of whatever, right? Whatever the circumstance might be, hey, I don't want to be alone, I'm getting too old, whatever
Mhm.
that might be, right? People decide to stay in a relationship just because, that's the only thing they know. Tell me a little bit about your experience in terms of why you didn't leave the first, second, or third time and some of the lessons learned through that.
I was scared. I should have left in 2009. That's when the marriage started shifting and he no longer wanted to be intimate with me.
Hmm.
I should have left then. And instead, I stayed. I was afraid. My kids were young. I know now that I should have left. And for your listeners out there, if they're in a toxic relationship, I can promise you it's never going to get better because once you cross certain boundaries with somebody, and they know that you're going to accept that type of behavior, it just continues to get worse and worse and worse. So fast forward, now we're in 2024 and he leaves again for the fourth time. At that moment, I was like, okay, I'm definitely never going back. And I think at this point, he would go back
Yeah.
again because these are patterns. Like you have to
Right.
know like the other person's patterns. And if I went back, even though I would love for my family to be back together and love to, be in a healthy relationship, he's going to leave again. He's already left four times. Like this guy's never going to not leave. Like we could be together for 2 years and then he'll wake up one day and just say, I'm leaving. You know what I mean? So it's like he's never going to stay. And those are his patterns. And I don't care how much therapy he gets, how much work he does on himself. I don't believe that he'll never do that again.
Yeah.
Um, so I stayed honestly out of fear because I was afraid to see what was on the other side, but the other side really isn't scary. So,
Right.
I mean, it's difficult at my age. It's like more difficult to like meet the right person because until you heal your wounds, you're going to keep attracting that same person. So I've attracted him in so many different versions since we split
Mm.
up. And because I had to do the work, I had to, fix the issues, my internal issues. So just for your listeners, get out as soon as you can because
Yeah.
if I promise you, it's never going to get better.
Yeah, no, sure. So talk about your experience with the Fashion Week in New York and Paris. And like you said, you've done a lot of external beauty, right? You've done a lot of that. And I'm assuming that's part of what you were doing and the things you were doing on the runways. Let's talk about that because I definitely want to talk about the three different topics that you're really focusing on right now with your talk show too.
So the runways were fun. I kind of feel bad for runway models because I think it's a lot more work than what people think. Like, they think, oh, it's such a glamorous life, and it really is hard.
Right.
So I have a lot of admiration for them because it's not easy, but it was super fun. I mean, for an experience like that for me at my age to be asked to walk the runway for New York and Paris was incredible. And so it was definitely like on my bucket list. So it was great. It's not something that I want to continue. Like I will do modeling work like here and there, but I think like print work would be for me better
Mhm.
and more fun. The runways were fun, but it's not something I would want to continue to do. Um, yeah, so I mean, but it was a good experience.
Yeah, no, I love that. So the your first book, right? You wrote it. You talk about the beauty. Let's start working on the inner self. Start healing
Mhm.
the wounds. And until you don't heal those wounds, then you're gonna be attracting a lot of the same, right?
Oh, the
Um,
same,
yeah.
just different versions.
Yeah, exactly, right. Tell me a little bit about, some of the things you had to learn about yourself. Because a lot of people, again, right now, especially you said, right, like even with social media, right, well, it's good. And sometimes we utilize that for our own, business or whatever that might be. Social media, right? So we want to put a face or an image of somebody else that sometimes we're not, or maybe we're putting this facet that, hey, we're okay, but internally we're broken, right? Or there's a lot of things that we got to work on, right? So
Yeah.
I think we're going through a lot of that right now too, especially with everything, all the different social medias. So let's talk about some of the things that you yourself had to start healing, on the inner.
Just issues that had happened when I was younger as a child. I brought a lot of that into the marriage, which that's my fault, but he also did the same thing. So and everybody does it. So you have to know, like, when you're getting into a relationship with somebody, like, you want to really try to leave that kind of trauma behind you because you'll take it out on that person. And I was much younger when I met him. I realize that now. So, like, now moving forward, whatever serious relationship I would get into in the future, I would not bring any of this baggage, into
Mhm.
that relationship. But I've also done a lot of work to kind of heal what happened in the marriage, the things that have happened in my childhood. So everybody has that in them, like, their patterns. So a lot of people will bring like their trauma into, their marriage, their relationship. I have friends now who are afraid to date because they had bad marriages and I can already see that they're bringing some of those issues to
Mhm.
that other person and it's not their fault.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So
And
you
then,
really need to heal before you get involved. with anybody.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was gonna say. You have to work on yourself and heal those before
Yes.
you do that, and especially a lot of things that we experience as kids, right? Too. If you
Yes.
don't heal those things, they do come up. Eventually, will
Hmm.
come up in your life, right? You keep talking about your age, right? So let's tell our listeners because
Okay.
this is also obviously a video interview. You look good for your age, so let's talk about that
Thank
because
you.
I think that's a big element on that, and it's a big message you have right now. So, um, you obviously have done a lot of work. How old are you? And then what is your
54.
54? So here we
Yes.
go, right? It goes back to that, and it's never too late to start all over again
Yes.
and or to do it, right? So what's your message with that? Because obviously you've had a lot of experience. You have a life behind you, yet even in front of you, it's even better.
Yeah. So I wasn't sure what to expect getting separated at the time I was 53. I didn't know, like, would anybody even be interested in dating me? I had no idea because it was like a whole new world for me because I met my ex when I was 26 years old.
Oh
So
wow,
I
yeah.
spent 27 years with this person. So of course I was scared, but I'd already finished my book and I'd already started, getting traction on Instagram. So that was working. And before that, I was in the mortgage industry with him.
Hmm,
So we had been partners my entire adult, basically most of my entire adult life. So I didn't really have that independence. I had independence before I met him, but I didn't really have that same kind of independence that I do now
right.
because everything was together. Like we worked together for years. We still own our company, we're still partners, but now I have my own name. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
My own like world, my own, that's totally separate. And the message would be because so many people are so scared, especially at that age, because you're like you're in your 50s, like
Mm-hmm.
you've already lived like a totally different life before that. And I feel like now women can't be afraid of that because there is another life out there. Like once I got out there, I saw like, oh, people are attracted to me. People do want to kiss me. People do want to like have dinner with me or go out with me. A lot
Mm-hmm.
of people. So I realized that I was holding myself back with dating. I was holding myself back with a new career that I could have had, which I'm doing now, what I probably always should have been doing. But when you're in a relationship where you're in flight or fight every day and you have so much anxiety, it's like you can't focus on anything but just surviving. So once that all ended, I was really able to take off. So you can really do that honestly at any age. I see women on Instagram who are in their 70s
Oh
and
yeah.
they're modeling clothes for Amazon and all these different things. So I don't think that the biggest drawback for women would be staying in this toxic relationship because you really can't focus on something else.
Right. Yeah. And definitely also having certain things or certain elements, right, in terms of that. I can see that. Let's talk about a little bit of the idea of your parties over podcast. You talk about beauty,
Yes.
wellness,
Yes.
reinvention. Let's talk about that for a second.
Everything. So the show has 3 segments per episode. The first segment is about reverse aging, about my first book. The second book is called From Bullshit to Broken Hearts, which hasn't been released yet. And that's all about toxic relationships. So segment B is all about that. And we have guests and different talk about different topics, but everything is like funny and humorous. And then the third segment is a spill it where somebody writes in a scenario and then my friend Vita and I talk about it. So it's all very humorous. And my books are humorous too. So nothing is like super serious, but there's serious topics talked about like more in a humorous way.
Nice. I love that. I love that.
Yeah,
So, beauty, wellness, reinvention, diving into wellness. Obviously, again, it doesn't matter which age. I think wellness is important. What are some of the
100%.
elements that we have to be looking after, or how can we embrace that? Because I think that's huge.
Yeah, so for women who are heading toward menopause or perimenopause, it's really difficult because we get away with a lot in our 20s and 30s. Like we don't have to work out as hard and we don't have to be as careful with our diet or drinking alcohol. So what I found is I barely drink. I make sure I sleep 8 hours a night. I drink
Hmm.
enough water. I weight train. Weight training is super important. And these are things that you can do that don't require a lot of money because even if you don't want a trainer, you can get an inexpensive membership at a gym. You can go on an app. You can follow different weight training
Hmm.
exercises and lymphatic work. So I do the lymphatic work every day as well. And with all those things combined, I feel like a different person. Plus, taking your supplements and peptides and things like that. So I consistently do everything. And because of that, I feel 100% balanced.
Yeah. And then reinventing, like, what are some things that you do, like, besides obviously doing the side of the wellness? Is there anything else that you do on a daily day basis to kind of keep you up and going?
Yeah, I like to walk, and that helps a lot. Just started recently meditating. I know people are like big fans of meditating. I
Yeah.
just kind of started that recently, which that helps, and just to stay grounded and really working with, like, I have a relationship coach and she's
Hmm.
a therapist as well. That's helped me a lot. Her name is Spicy Mari. She was actually a guest on my show, and I liked her so much I decided to hire her outside of the
Nice.
show.
Yeah.
But she's the one that made me realize that, look, you're dating these people who are all extensions of your ex. And she's like, we really need to work on you and getting you whole as a person. Um, so that's helped. And, I worked with two different life coaches, which have helped a lot as well. So I feel like there's nothing wrong with going out there and like getting help from a third party. I mean, I've done it and it's been beneficial.
Yeah. You talked about coaching and you have two of them. A lot of people might say, well, why am I going to pay for somebody to tell me what to do? Or, I don't need a mentor. I don't need a coach. I
Yeah.
don't need any of that. And I'm sure you've heard that before. How important is that? And why do people need to invest,
I think
in,
it's really important, especially if you're struggling. I think if you're struggling with anxiety or you need to talk to somebody and you a therapist, a life coach, whatever, I think it's really important to get help from a third party if you can afford it or if you feel like that you need it. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I mean, for
yeah.
me, it's been very beneficial.
Yeah, for sure. No, I get it. Your Parties Over podcast, where people can listen to that.
So Parties Over podcast is on all of the podcast platforms and it's on YouTube. So the actual show itself, because it's set up like a TV show. So
Nice.
that, yeah, it's great. It's on YouTube. It's called Parties Over Show. It's super fun. And people can find me on my website. So everything's on the website, Sandra Lena Silverman. And Instagram is Sandra Lena Silverman. So everything is Sandra Lena Silverman.
Yeah.
So it's easy.
It's
And
easy
then,
to
yeah,
find you.
yeah.
Yeah. Now, do you
Mhm.
do the party over, recording in Miami?
Yeah, so it's actually we turn my apartment the week that we film. So we'll film like 4 days in a row, and we turn my apartment into a studio. So
Wow.
it does it. So then there's like amazing lighting. So it looks literally like you're on a television set.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
So are you in the mortgage business in real estate now? Is that what you mentioned?
Yeah.
So what?
So
Yeah.
my ex and I started this company in 1998. I was actually in the industry and he wasn't. So
Okay.
that's the other thing. I like we met, we decided to start this company. I trained him. I helped
Mm,
set up the whole company and we worked together for a long time. And then once we had our kids and we adopted our daughter, I was basically a full-time mom. And there were like times I would go back, start working again, but during COVID I went back to work. And then I just realized, like, yeah, we have this company, but I don't want to go back to that world. Like, I wanted to write the books and do the podcast and just have a totally different life for myself. So we are still partners, but we are not working together any longer.
yeah, got you. So it's a new year,
Yeah.
2026. Obviously, you're reinventing yourself. What other things are you working on for the rest of this year? What is Sandy doing this year?
So the rest of this year, so that's why I'm in Cabo now. I'm writing my third book.
Oh,
So
nice.
yeah, and I don't exactly know what the third book. I want it to be more of like an empowerment book for women. So I'm going to start that soon and basically just continue working on the show. I'll be publishing, like I said, I'll be writing. Well, the second book's going to get published this year. I'm writing the third, and I'm just on podcasts like yours.
Yeah, yeah, no, I
Yeah,
love that.
yeah.
I know you're kind of still working on the third book, and you still don't know exactly what it's going to be. Empowerment for women. Any kind of tips or ideas that we're gonna expect to see in the book that you can share with us now?
What we just talked about in this podcast, where we were talking about that you can reinvent your life at any age. I want to talk about that in the book because I think that it's really important because a lot of women they feel lost. They feel
Right.
lost even if they're still with their husbands, but they raised their kids and they dedicated all this time and energy to their family and not to themselves. Like I want women to know like you can do whatever you want at any age because I'm proof of that. Like I'm just a regular person that decided to take this path and it's working out really well. But I'm not different than anybody else. I'm not a celebrity. You know what I mean? I'm like
Yeah.
just the same, just a regular person. And I was able, to create this different role for myself, even after, being in such a horrible relationship for 27 years and after raising my kids and, just invented kind of like a new life. And I feel
Yeah,
like anybody can do the same thing.
for sure. Yeah, one thing that comes to mind, I had somebody in on my show, and it came to the same thing you're talking about. Sometimes, being in a long-term relationship is not even love anymore. Let's just assume that it's not even toxic, right? But it's not
Yeah.
even love anymore. And this person mentioned is it's not that I'm in love with this person anymore. It's just I'm accustomed to it. I'm used to this
Yeah.
lifestyle. And because of that, a lot of times people stay together. And again,
Yes.
then you forget to really work on yourself or maybe do the
Yes.
things you want to do because of that, right? It's holding you back.
Even if it's not toxic, you're just kind of stagnant, like
You're
you're
right.
saying, and you're just not being true to yourself. And you're not really loving yourself because if you loved yourself, you would want more for yourself.
Right.
And that was really hard for me to understand because I wasn't loving myself. And it took a long time for me to get there. And that's what the second part of my book is about, like doing all the internal work, learning to love myself. And finding that balance in my life. And, if you stay in the stagnant relationship, it's the same thing. Like, yeah, you're not being abused or mistreated, but you're kind of mistreating yourself.
Right, which is even worse, right? I mean,
Yes.
more than anything, it's like people that have kids that are younger, right? They're still not of age to leave the house, and they're like, "Well, I got to stay here because of my kids." And I hardly disagree with that. I think that you can still be parents, even being
Yes.
separated, and even have a better relationship with your kids and show them better values than staying together and arguing and fighting, all doing all these different things. So again, you're depriving yourself from a future, your own future, right?
I agree with you because I stayed, I had convinced myself, oh, the kids are young. I can't leave. I'm wasn't really admitting to myself that I was scared, but really that was the bottom line. And I was just using that as an excuse. I should have left in 2009. My life would be, I was still in my late 30s.
Right.
I would probably be married right now with, I may have started like another family. Like, I'm a family person. Like, I like
Mm,
having a family unit, just not in a toxic
right.
unit. But, I like being married. I like the institution of marriage. And I feel like I cheated myself by not leaving that year because I knew it was wrong. Like I knew things weren't ever going to get better. I shouldn't have stayed, but I did. So for your listeners, definitely get out if you
Yeah.
can
Right.
because and even if you have the young kids and you feel like no, I'm going to stay for my kids, don't do it.
Right.
Because you can co-parent
Right.
fine.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. It goes back to one of the things that used to say in the past, and it's a relationship advice, right? Don't cheat on your future with your past. And a lot of times we
Yes.
do that, right? We're
Yeah.
cheating on our future because of our past, whatever that might be, that took place or happened. So 100%. So,
Yeah, I
so,
agree.
so Sandy, talk about for the listeners, like if they're going through any kind of challenge, whatever challenge they might be going through, what is one thing that they can do today to start overcoming that challenge?
Really digging deep and learning how to love yourself. 100% and eliminating as much toxic from your life as possible. So a
Mm,
lot of times we're in toxic friendships, we have toxic family members. Just separate yourself as much as you can from any type of toxic relationship that you have, and especially, with your significant other, but it could just be with other people as well. And really find a way to love yourself because once you do, your whole world's going to open up for you.
yeah, I love that. I love that. So Sandy, if people want to get a hold of your first book, where can they find that?
On Amazon and Barnes and Noble. Again, it's from Bullshit to Botox and it's easy to read. I also narrated it. So if you listen to it
Oh,
instead,
that's
it's
cool.
like talking to me. So I
Yeah,
narrated it. It was funny. And it's a
yeah,
funny book. It's fun. Like if you're looking for, you might be the type of person that's like, I'm not ever going to get a plastic surgery, which is fine because the whole second part of the book are other ways to, balance yourself, make yourself feel better. That has nothing to do with the first part of the book, which is the
yeah.
many, many, many surgeries that I've had.
Well, no, that's hey, I love that, and again, I love the fact that you're in this path of wellness, reinvention, and obviously continuing the beauty, and more so not only in the exterior but more in the interior. So that's pretty
Thank
amazing.
you.
Um, any last minute things you want to say before I let you go?
Just figure out a way to love yourself and live your best life because if you don't love you, nobody else is going to really love you.
I love that. I love that. Thank you, Sandy. Well,
Thank
again,
you.
thank you again for being here. Really appreciate it. Enjoy Cabos and looking forward to the next couple of books that you're going to have coming out. So
Thank
thank you
you for
again for being
inviting
here.
me.
Yeah,
This was
definitely.
great. Thank you.
Yeah, and for the rest of you guys, make sure that you share this message and let everybody know because somebody needs to hear it. Go ahead and connect with Sandy, get her book, go check out her podcast, and I'll see you guys on the next episode of You Can Overcome Anything podcast show. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Cesar Espino, real estate investor, business coach, and consultant, and author of the book, You Can Overcome Anything, Even When the World Says No. My number is 424-501-6046. In my book, I talk about making the necessary changes to shift your mind for prosperity and certainty. Pick up your copy at Amazon. I also love helping families with their real estate and can purchase your house fast and all cash. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. My number is 424-501-6046.
Thank you for having me today. I am so glad you've tuned into this podcast. You can find me at your favorite podcast platform where you can like, subscribe, comment, and share. And to learn more about myself, my services, you can find me at www.CesarRespino.com, or you can also find me at your social media. Thanks for joining me, and I am looking forward to having you at the next episode. And know you truly can overcome anything.